Hi, I'm Sharon Landon, and welcome back to Old Asian Lady. Today, my guest is Jean-Jacques Chen, or just JJ. He is a French-born, Belgian-raised Taiwanese. He's also an animation film director, storyboarder, 2D animator, editor, and photographer. He's worked extensively in Belgium and Taiwan on several animation projects, including MVs, TV series, feature films, and video games. We chat about his life in Belgium, reasons why he moved back to Taiwan, the ups and downs that he's had in his life, and he also shares concerns about his mother's cancer and how that influences his choices for the future.
I had already started my studies in university for animation at the time, and I was like, yeah, no, it's like sink or swim. Like I just like going on, and funny enough, it's only after my third year in university for my third movie, because in my school we used to have to, every student has to make animation short by themselves per year, which is actually horrible because the workload is just insane. But at the same time, because we have to do all the steps of production of an animation, we kind of like we become excellent generalists. Like we can do it all. We kind of like jack of all trades who can do all the steps and have at least a basic understanding of each step of the production of an animation movie.
Which is just, so people that don't know.
So to break it down, like there are three really like main process, like steps in with the production of an animation film. It can work for movies as well, like for live action filmmaking. It also works. You have the pre-production first, and then the production, and then the post-production.
Okay.
So the pre-production is the kind of the bones of the core of the project. So it's like the script. You write the script, you do the design of the characters, the character design, you do the background design, so all the environment, the places it's gonna happen, you kind of design them as well, the color design as well, what kind of colors, what kind of vibes you want to put into your movie, all the concept art basically, and then you do the storyboard. So that's kind of like the pre-production. It's like really, the storyboard is basically the shot list of all the shots of the scenes that are going to happen in the movie. It's just that you haven't animated yet all the scenes. It's just one single drawing or maybe two drawings if you have like complex movement that happens, or 3 drawings or 5 drawings. But basically it almost looks like a comic strip of the movie that you're about to shoot. So all of these parts are the pre-production. That's the core. And once you have done all of these, then you can start the production. And the production in animation movies, basically all the chores, the heavy lifting stuff to do, like all the animation, all the backgrounds, like every shot's background have to be drawn like very detailed, like the final art basically. So that's the art direction, and then you have like all the animation that go on top of it, and then once you've done the animation, you have to ink all these animation, you have to color them, you have to put the compositing, so put all the animation with the background together into the same image. And if you need to add some more fluff, like some lighting, some shadows, some color grading, some VFX, that's more like the post-production. So that and the editing, the final editing, the sound mixing, all of that is the post-production. It's the final steps of making an animation. So as students, we were in charge of doing all of this for 1 year for a short. So most of our shorts maybe were like between 3 minutes to 10 minutes.
And how long would that take for a 3 or 5 minute?
A full year.
A full year?
Yeah, a full year per person. Or some students could kind of like cheat the system, like and work by tandem, in tandem. So basically they would have, they would make a group of 2 or 3 or 4 And each of them would still be the director of their own movie, but they would have the others kind of like helping with like
With the project.
with the
Well,
project.
sounds
So-
good to me.
Yeah, in
But
most
that's not what you're supposed to do.
that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do it by yourself.
But they were
if-
accepted though.
But if you can get some people to help, all the better. Like they were not like forbidden to do that. It was actually encouraged. And the thing is, the school I was in is called La Cambre in Belgium. It's like the most prestigious, renowned art school in Belgium for visual arts. And there are quite a few like memorable animators who came out of this school at the European scale. And most of the people who are actually still active in the industry right now are the people who, when they were at La Cambre, were working together. Like when they were working in group, they actually like really found their partner in crime,
Right.
and they just stuck with them and just kept working with them like professionally long after the school days. So those are actually most of the time the ones that really like kind of like go far in the industry.
So was this kind of school sort of like a dance school or music school where you had to audition or test or show your stuff before you could get in?
Yes, and well, I guess that's the case for most of the art school. I guess you have an entrance exam. For this school, it was like 1 week of different exams. Like the first day would be general drawing tests.
Okay,
So just to see where you're at, like what's your level, with models or without models and that
Right,
kind of stuff. And then from the second day, starting the second day for the rest of the week, like it would be an exam specifically for your option. So my option was animation, but in that school there was like 18 different options. You have painting, architecture, stylist, like fashion stylist, sculpture, photography, like just a lot of artistic discipline. And yeah, for the rest of the week we would do like animation related tests to get in.
So why did you choose animation? What was it about animation that just really
I
lit
kind of
your fire or something?
I kind of caught the virus very young, very little. I think, of course, like every kid from the 80s, like I used to watch like Saturday morning cartoons and that kind of stuff on TV, and most of them usually were like Warner Bros. Or like Looney Tunes and Mickey Mouse and
Yeah.
stuff from Disney. And then when I was about 6, 7, we were hit like in France and in Belgium, but most likely like French-speaking countries. We were hit with a very specific show called Le Club Dorothée.
Club de Hotel.
Club Dorothée, yeah, which was a French TV show for kids that happened to show mostly Japanese animation.
Oh,
Which was the very first in France. Like in France, there were already kind of a few shows that were like showing Japanese animation, but this one was the very first that was really targeting that. That was really like 80% of the content was Japanese animation. So that's when I discovered Dragon Ball. That's when I discovered Senseiya, City Hunter, Ranma Half, Sailor Moon, and all the big brand names of animation, of Japanese animation from the 80s and the 90s. We discovered that from that show. I was a kid at the time, like I was like 6, 7 years old or something like that when I first discovered Dragon Ball and Senseiya, and like these two were kind of like the main series that really like printed themselves into my brain, and okay, I want to do this.
Oh.
And I didn't know I wanted to do animation per se, but I knew I was already drawing a lot at the
Yeah.
time, and this really like confirmed that I wanted to do this. I wanted to draw, and I spent years and years tracing the big drawings of these two series. And yeah, I grew up with these series, so they definitely kind of like helped me kind of launch my trajectory into the arts. That and video games, like some video games that I was playing at the time were also having some really great art, like Legend of Zelda and all the goodness of the 80s and the 90s.
You were specializing in 2D rather than
Yeah.
3D
Yeah.
animation. And is there a lot of difference
Oh, it's
in
completely
that
different.
it's totally different.
Yeah,
And
it's not the
is
same,
3D like way harder than 2D?
It depends for who you're asking. Like
Oh.
basically, 2D animation is for the people who know how to draw, because that's like pure drawing, and 3D is more. You could kind of make a parallel between 3D modeling and sculpture. So it's
Okay.
more like kind of like digital sculpture. You're taking blocks of polygons, like big squares, big cubes, and then you kind of like you kind of sculpt it and refine the shapes even more and more and more and more until you have like a lot of polygons that show like a human skull or a human face or a human body. And once you're done with the modeling, you can put what we call a rig on it. Like you can put a skeleton in it, and like the rig is basically attaching all the parts of the model into the skeleton, and then you animate the skeleton.
Okay, so it's a physical thing.
It's not, no, it's virtual.
Oh, it's still
It's
virtual,
digital.
but
It's
yeah,
in
yeah.
the computer, but it almost looks like if it was in real life, it would be stop motion, basically. Stop motion animation is a third way of animating. It's like
Take the
animation with
picture,
pictures, yes.
And then it's like 1,000 pictures right after.
Yeah.
Each
So
other.
you move like a puppet with a skeleton inside.
Yeah.
But with like, for example, Wallace and Gromit. Like it's a very famous example of stop motion animation. They're like puppet characters that you painstakingly move a little bit, every
time.
movement, and
Yeah.
but the 3D animation looks a little bit like that, but inside the computer and not physically. But it kind of looks a lot like this because you can then play with the lights. Like you can put some light on it and some textures on it, and the advantage of it, even if it takes a long time, a much longer time to prepare the model and the rigging and the skeleton and the light and the texture, like this is something that takes a huge amount of time and effort, like an amount. But once this is ready, you can actually like just move it and like the computer will just move all the in-betweens. You can move what we call keyframes. Like for example, if I want to do a punch, like this is the first keyframe, this is the second keyframe, and this is the third keyframes. And then the computer will kind of like help you calculate all the in-betweens, you know, all of these movements. If you do it well. If you don't do it well, you kind of have to fix the in-betweens yourself manually. But it kind of helps save a lot of time. So it takes a lot of time first, but to save a lot of time afterwards during the animation process. If you do it in 2D or in stop motion, you have to do all the in-betweens yourself. You have to draw them, you know, like there's no automatic process. Maybe now with AI, we don't know, maybe, but that's another debate.
Yeah, I'll get to asking
debate.
about that. Yeah, so then you do the 2D, and actually I've seen, are there certain topics or do you have certain inspirations for doing the particular projects that you do yourself in 2D?
Well, the thing is, I've always loved to draw ever since I was a kid, and the thing is, yeah, I wanted to do something with that. Like 3D sounds very great for like kind of like saving a lot of time afterwards, because once you've got your model, you can do whatever you want with animation with them, and it's much easier. But at the same time, because the softwares in 3D usually have user interface that are very complicated. Like there's a lot of buttons that do a lot of things, and you have a lot of like terminology and vocabulary to learn to be able to use them. I'm a little bit too stupid for that, so I just want to draw. I just want to use my hands.
Yeah.
If you want to do 3D, you kind of like almost have to be an engineer to be able to understand the software before being able to use it. So I'm like, I tried multiple times already to experiment with 3D, and I never really quite got it. So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, well, I'm just gonna stick to 2D animation. And also, it's the kind of stuff that I grew up with. So I would prefer, if I could, to really like just stick to that medium, because there's just something magic to see a bunch of drawings that you put together and one after the other, and all of a sudden it moves.
Yeah.
You know, there's really something really magic about it, and surely there's also magic that can happen in the computer. We've seen it recently, like ever since like the Toy Story from Pixar, obviously. We've seen that magic can happen with 3D as well. But the thing is, what I was kind of saying that 3D can help save a lot of efforts in production afterwards once you've done all the models. So a lot of people, when Toy Story came out, it kind of like completely changed the landscape of animation. Before everything was done like by drawing, right? Everything was Disney, it was Japanese animation, and everything was done by drawing. And then Toy Story happened in '95, completely changed the landscape. Everybody was like, oh, you can do movies like this? Okay, yeah, well, that's the future of animation. Let's all do 3D movies. Let's just throw 2D in the trash bin. And Disney just completely shut down all their studios, their 2D studios all throughout the world.
Wow.
Most of the 2D animators were out of a job all of a sudden. Like they've been doing this for their entire career, and all of a sudden it's like, bye-bye, thank you for your service. Or if you want to learn 3D, yeah, you're welcome. So a lot of them were kind of like forced to do the conversion if they wanted to keep a job.
Yeah. So Taiwan actually had a large group of people that did the animation or 2D animation before. So they then they worked with Disney before or other.
Yeah, I actually, funny story, I used to do an internship into one of the biggest studios here. I think it was the biggest studio in Taiwan, called Wong Film. And it was a very famous kind of like a production studio. So they were kind of like the little hand that helped other studios to do the production, like the brunt of the work. And that was during the 80s up to like the 2000s, like middle 2000s. And like when Disney wanted to make the production of an animation film, most of the time they were actually asking Wong Film to help them. So that was like
Taiwan.
kind of like
Wow.
yeah. Taiwan was actually the country, like the made in Taiwan in animation was kind of like the
Everything was made in Taiwan.
everything
at
was
one
made
point.
in Taiwan. You know, like Aladdin was made in Taiwan, Lion King, Mulan, Little Mermaid, all these movies from the 80s, 90s. Actually, most of the animation was done here.
That's interesting.
At Wong Film. So they had a lot of experience like working with Disney, with like big shots, and also with Japan as well. And they were basically like the equivalent of what like China or Vietnam or Korea now are like the cheap but
Outsourced
cheap but efficient
labor.
outsource. So that
Yeah.
was Taiwan back in the days. Like from the 80s to the 2000s, Taiwan was actually a really important hub in animation in the world. And in the 2000s, well, the whole shift to like 3D happened. And all of a sudden, like this big studio that was so experienced in 2D animation, they had to make the shift as well, and it didn't really work that well. So they went like, going under.
Oh, wow.
And now you can only find like middle to small size studios in Taiwan who are still kind of like helping other studios. So I don't really think I've seen a lot of like very like original Taiwanese IPs. There are a few of them, but they don't really make it that big in the international scene.
So there's still a need then? Well, I mean, even with all the 3D stuff going on, is there still really a need for 2D? I mean, people are still paying. I mean,
yeah. The thing is, that's the thing that everybody was used to say back in the day when the like Toy Story happened, and like everybody at Disney in first was saying, okay, 2D is dead, 3D is the future, let's all do 3D. That was about what 30 years ago. Nowadays, 30 years later, fast forward, 2D is still very much there, like thanks Japan, but also thanks Europe, like thanks France, thanks Ireland, thanks Spain, thanks Canada as well. Wow. Also, like you can still see quite a lot of very talented and dedicated people still doing like sticking to 2D and making really great movies and series in that format. Even though it kind of evolved a little bit. Now people in 2D series, instead of being completely like fully drawn, like each and every intervals in betweens, you see more like puppet animation. So it's more like it's hand drawn. It's still 2D animation, but when they move, you can tell it's a little bit like kind of like puppeteered. It's like they have a drawing of the arm, a drawing of the forearm, a drawing of the hands, and everything is kind of like stick together, and they just like keep the same drawing but just move it a little bit translated. And same goes for the face, where you have like the same head but only the eyes and the mouth are moving, and that's the kind of stuff that you can see happening more and more in animation, in 2D animation, to save time and effort and also budget, because animation is something very costly. So whenever you can save budget, you can find some cheat codes to kind of like cut the workload. Japanese are very, very famous for that. They'll rely much more on a good story and good composition, because they're really good at, like, the Japanese art is extremely good at composition. So they rely more on a powerful shot with powerful pose, like key pose. And most of the time, like, it's just the key pose, the composition. Maybe the camera moves a little bit, but nobody moves, and only the mouth are moving, or the eyes are winking. That's their answer to we don't have budget, but we can still make some kick-ass stories.
Right. So do you feel that, I mean, which country do you feel? I mean, is it Japan that you feel that are really super masters at doing anime or 2D anime?
Japan most definitely is one of the two, like, number ones. It's kind of a toss-up between Japan and the US in the animation industry. Like, these two are kind of always been like the two big poles of animation world. But at the same time, you also have the French, as I mentioned, who are kind of like self-proclaimed number three. It sounds a bit ridiculous, but when you actually pay attention and you actually look what they've been producing, you can tell, like, okay, yeah, no, there is some ground to that rumor.
Right.
They do really some fantastic animations, like Ernest et Célestine, or like Tout en haut du monde. It's more like on top of the world, I think. That was the name. The Summit of Gods as well, that you can probably find on Netflix. I don't know if you can find it in Netflix here in Taiwan.
You have to use the VPN.
Yeah, you probably have
For
to
France.
use NordVPN. Or this video is sponsored by.
So you've actually worked in a lot of different mediums, right? You've done MVs, you've done film, you've done, you mentioned before, video games.
Yeah.
What do you like doing best?
It kind of depends from project to project, I would say. Sometimes I can. My favorite type of medium is still animation. Then, if possible, like 2D animation. But I've kind of like done a lot of different projects within animation. As you mentioned, I've done a music video. I've been working on a feature film, on a TV series, and for very different posts for each of them. Like for the movie, I was done mostly the storyboard, like the pre-production. For the series, I was mostly on post-production, like at the compositing level. And for the music video, because it was mine, so I kind of like did, as in my student days, I was doing everything. And for video game, that was my one time where I tried to learn 3D, to animate in it, because the game was in 3D. Struggled a good few months on it, but in the end, I kind of like found a little bit of a way to make it work. It was challenging, but yeah, there was some fun moments in it. I would say the biggest fun I had on a project was on a French TV series from like 5 years ago called Droners. Like Droners. Droners is a French TV series about kids who are doing racing.
In cars, you mean?
But with drones.
Drones,
yeah.
okay.
So that's why drone racers, droners.
Oh, droners.
So that's the name of the series, the pun of the series, and it's like it's a great like series for kids. Like it's definitely something like back in the day, like it was 5 years ago. Drones were still very much all the rage, and everybody wanted one. So having like a series of races specifically with drones, with kids like target piloting the
Yeah.
drones. That was a lot of fun.
Catch the market.
Yeah, basically, and it was a very colorful, very anime inspired, Japanese anime inspired. Like French are very good at that. They kind of like blend all the American and Japanese inspiration, because we've been watching Japanese animation for like ever since I was a kid. So now that we grew up, like our generation grew up, like the directors of today's are the kids from the 80s. So obviously we try to cram up as much Japanese inspiration that we can into our work. And yeah, that was definitely one of the series that was successful about it.
Well, when you do your own work, what are you more influenced by?
Before I started my studies in animation, there was one movie that I saw in theaters that really made me feel, okay, this is what I want to do. That was Princess Mononoke from Hayao Miyazaki. So like the super big, famous director from Japan. Like he's basically like a lot of people are saying he's the Disney from Japan. I think he's way much more than that.
Oh yeah.
And he's I would kind of like feel like he's more like the Steven Spielberg of the animation world, because his stories are always like full of heart, full of like very heartwarming movies, and very much like fantasy, inviting to dream type of movies. And this movie was by very far his most like somber one, his most serious one, which was a very big contrast to his filmography from before. And I was like 20 when I saw it. It was my last, my final year in high school. I flunked 2 years, remember?
20, yeah, high school. Oh my gosh.
So I had the honor and the luck to actually see that movie at the right time, actually, like because it was coming in theaters in France back in the day that year, and we happened to have our school trip in Paris that year. So I was lucky enough to be there at the right time, at the right place to see that movie at the right moment. And it was just after that I was like, okay, yeah, I know what I want to do. When I started doing animation studies, I knew I wanted to do animation, but I didn't quite know in what style. Sure, like Japanese animation was a very big influence, but even just in Japanese animation, there's a notion of different styles. So I didn't really have, like I was 20 at the time, I just started in animation. It's overwhelming, like you have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drawing to do, so you don't really have time to think, to stop and think and smell the rose. So the first 2 years that I did my projects were very haphazard. Like they didn't really have an art direction. I just was throwing spaghettis on the wall.
That's probably normal though.
Yeah, it was exploring, experimenting and not knowing exactly what to do. So you just try everything, and with more or less success. And it's only on my third year, after I flunked my second year, actually, because that movie was a little bit too experimental and didn't really go anywhere. So my third year, I wanted to focus a little bit more on, okay, simpler story, simple character design, but just very punchy, very like, not necessarily memorable, but very short, but like dynamic, very like something that people would really like remember. And it was just a very short kind of like fight between a yin-yang character, like a white character and a black character.
I think I saw that one. You have it
Maybe,
on Vimeo.
yeah, probably.
I'll put the link up for people. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I actually have it online, but
is it the one where they're fighting in the bamboo forest?
And then that was my graduation movie. That was years later. But no, I don't think you're speaking about the one that I did first that kind of like got me into my style. Before that, I actually had seen a really memorable Chinese animation from the 80s called Impressions of Mountains and Water. That was an animation that was done in Chinese ink, Chinese painting style.
Oh yeah.
From Dewey. So that's one of. It's a short animation. It's like a little bit less than 20 minutes, but that animation definitely showed me that it was possible to have a very strong art direction and still making animation on top of it. I was really like baffled by it because it was very much. It was the first time I saw Chinese painting but moving. And I was like, wow, like this, I was already interested in Chinese painting at the time, but seeing that you can actually do animation with it, I was completely like on the floor. And I wanted to do the same thing. I was very inspired by it. I wanted to do something akin to that. So that was my movie for my third year. And lo and behold, I had smashing grades thanks to
Wow,
it.
because of that. Wow,
Because
interesting.
it was much more simple in the story. It's just a fight between two characters. There's not that many story, but it was very yin and yang style.
Yeah.
With Chinese painting in the background and that kind of stuff. That was my first time actually like trying to learn to draw with Chinese brushes. So that was a very fruitful experience. And thanks to that, that was one of the things that kind of like again cemented my art direction for the years to come. And then a few years afterwards, I did the movie that you were mentioning about, like my graduation movie. That was kind of like the culmination of all the years I spent trying to do animation with the Chinese painting style.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about before, I didn't really realize that animation, people have to worry about lighting and adding colors and stuff, because that particular film, I think it was pretty graphic in a lot of ways, because they cut themselves, people died and blood was like squirting out and things like
all
that.
over the place.
So yeah.
I'm getting 45 this year. It's kind of the last window for me if I want to actually make a project like as a director and try to make something out of my career. But the thing is, I'm a little bit doubtful that that future would happen here in Taiwan, because as I mentioned before, Taiwan is a great place to help produce other people's animation, but I very rarely see homebred, homebrewed Taiwanese animation projects coming out from here. And I really don't think that there's actually an infrastructure for that here, because the thing is, Taiwan is kind of stuck between the hammer and the anvil. Like you have Japan, that's the neighbor. Like that's a very big one, you know, like everybody is like watching Japanese movies and Japanese animation here. And then on the other side, you have China, which is like very much catching up right now. They have some really successful animation movies and video games that came out the past few years. And you also have like South Korea, which is also kind of like very big, like powerhouse of animation production as well right now, but they also do their own projects. So Taiwan is kind of like stuck in the middle of this big triangle.
Yeah, I think the difference is just Taiwan, the support from the government here in that types of stuff is just not
nil.
there, and they really actually need to learn lessons from all the other different countries about that, how to support talent that's here in Taiwan.
Yeah, but at the same time, well, I've been here for long enough to kind of observe that it will likely never happen, because Taiwan kind of has a very interesting problem that none of the three other countries has. It has a giant neighbors that's threatening to eat it
for
every
now.
single day, every single year. And most of the resource, most of Taiwanese government resource is put to try to counteract that, to try to like keep the sovereignty, keep like the military, the diplomatic, the economic kind of shields to try to shield themselves to happen, to be kind of like gobbled up by China. And the thing is, because they have so much more urgent matters to attend to,
You think that's
obviously soft power, entertainment, all of that kind of stuff goes way back in their priorities.
that could make sense.
So I really don't see Taiwan like investing much money into entertainment, even though from an insider perspective, I see the power of the soft power basically from Japan, for example. The whole world knows about anime. Like even the people who don't watch anime, they know of anime. Like they've heard of it, they've heard of some of the series, they've heard of Dragon Ball, they have heard of some other series that are very much putting Japanese culture at the forefront of their stories, like stories about samurais or stories about like, I don't know, like Japanese corporations now, like video games and that kind of stuff. Japan is very much one of the biggest players in terms of soft power in the world, and it definitely has a role to play with how the rest of the world sees them. You know, like everybody knows Japan, at least for that, you know, at least for anime, at least for video games and all that kind of stuff. So I don't exactly know if the government is really helping much in that department. I think it's much more like private investments. But at the same time, it's so powerful there that there's definitely some lessons to be taken from that, as you said. If Taiwan was to invest that kind of money into artists here, first off, they would stop the bleeding. Like most of the artists here, because they see that there's nothing to do here, but they just go either in America or in France or in other countries where they can actually find jobs or interesting jobs that pay well. And if the government or more investors were kind of like more gutsy and actually managed to invest so much more funds into the artists, the art scene here, or the creativity, animation, comics, artists, creative filmmaking series, whatever, you could definitely boost much more the visibility of Taiwan in the world scale. If you get like actual quality made in Taiwan projects, series, animation, music, whatever, that could very much rival like K-pop, for example, or K-drama, or anime, or even like Chinese movies that are like making billions and billions at the box office.
Yeah, which they haven't done too much of.
No, like right now, it's, as I said, it's not part of their priorities. But if they were to prioritize it, hey, maybe people would know about Taiwan a little bit more. And
before I go, this is always the part of the show or the episode where I am talking about the wow. I know you're there, but do you have actually a wow? Something, words of wisdom based on all of these experiences that you've had, really. And I'm not saying that everybody doesn't go through a lot of pain and misery in their life, but it seems like you've had quite a lot. But do you have anything that you wanted to share with listeners? Whether it is about your passion or actually, I don't know if it's still your passion because you got burned out in anime, but now you're doing photography. I mean, you always have a way to get there. But do you have anything that you want to maybe share?
A lot of people have this very big misconception about art, about being talented in drawing, for example. When they see me drawing, they see a very beautiful drawing and they're like, oh, I wish I was so talented and that kind of stuff. I wish I was born with that. It's not exactly from how I see it, I wasn't born like that. I wasn't born and all of a sudden I could do like Chinese paintings, you know, like that thing took a lot of time and effort for me to learn. But the thing is, it's not necessarily the talents that you're born with, it's the love. Like, do what you love and you will get good at it because you will spend the time, you will be willing to sacrifice all the time to learn how to get good at it. And then only you will get the talents. Obviously, some people are more like, maybe it's something with the genes, I don't know. Like my grandparents, from my dad's side, my granddad was a very good Chinese painter. My dad was a very good calligrapher. So maybe I have it a little bit in my genes, I don't know, in my cultural lineage. But yeah, the thing is, even if I had it, to begin with, I still have drawn for like 30 years.
Yeah.
So obviously that goes much farther up than just having the talent and not really working out with it. Like it's really a form of working out. Like basically, you flex your artistic muscles as much as you're flexing your actual muscles when you're working out, and you have to really like work it out for a long time and very intensively if you want to really go far with it.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I would say for people who find a passion and are not necessarily good at it to begin with. Don't worry, like we all start somewhere. We all have our ups and downs again, but we all start from. The thing is, one of my Tai Chi teacher, my Tai Chi teacher from 20 years ago, he had a very good question to ask us, the students. What do we know? What do we do before we know? Do you know?
You walk, baby steps.
not exactly. Well, you can sort of say that, but the actual answer that he gave us was, we don't know. So before knowing, we don't know. That's
true. That's very
very
basic.
simple, but it's true.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it sounds simple, but how many people can actually accept that fact? Like, how many people have you come across that didn't know anything about the topic, but were still talking about it as if they were knowing about it? You know, as if they were, I know everything about this topic and this topic, about politics, about that. Yeah, buddy, like, what exactly are your studies about that? Like, can you drop me some links, or can you drop me some topics and discussion that you have seen? And they were like, but trust me, bro. And the thing is, like, so many people are driven, like, ego-driven rather than knowledge-driven. And knowledge takes time. Like, knowledge, experience, all of that kind of stuff, they all start from zero. So if you're there, but you have a passion about something, don't worry. We all start from zero. We all start from the ground. And you have to build your way up and throw all that passion and that time into learning the craft. So nothing comes automatically unless you're doing AI. that's another topic. But yeah, no, if you want to get good at drawing, spend time drawing. Like, if you want to get good at music, spend time doing music. If you want to get good at filmmaking, spend time making movies. It's going to be a little bit more costly, but but it's doable. Like, some professionals have been doing films with just their phones. So yeah,
that's
it's possible.
really possible. Yeah. Before we go, then, if people wanted to, find or look and get an idea of what your work is, where would they find you? In both photography and animation.
So 500 Pix is one place where you can find me. Instagram as well, even though, like, both of them, it's been a long time I haven't uploaded anything. I've been pretty out of social media recently, so you cannot really find anything recent from me, but you can also find me on YouTube. I do have a channel called GG Star Prod. And on Vimeo, actually, I have a page that I will throw the link below.
Just Google JJ Chen.
Yeah, Jean-Jacques Chen, my French name.
Jean-Jacques Chen. Yeah.
And you can sometimes find me do some film reviews there that I've seen recently, or throw some pictures that I've taken.
Okay, well, I'll have all the links that you just mentioned in our description. So thank you, JJ, for stopping by and
You're
talking
welcome.
with us today. It was really interesting things I learned about animation that I never knew before. So, but
thank you very much for having me. It was a very good chat. And
thank you for joining us on this episode of Old Asian Lady, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
bye.